So we're on to a surprising, unsurprising result from Saturday with Alabama whooping Miami 44-13. Bryce Young in his first game starting for the Crimson Tide came out, set records, 27 of 38 passing, 350 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 94.2 QPR. Going into this game, I knew Alabama was going to win. I knew they were going to win by a decent margin, but I was not expecting this by any stretch of the imagination at all.
Yeah, I mean, this game it was much more of I think a whooping than most people would have imagined. And then when you look at these two quarterbacks, right? Bryce Young only completes four more passes than De'Aaron King, 27 to King's 23, but he ends with 344 yards and 4 touchdowns at a 94.2 QBR, whereas King ends with only 178 yards, a touchdown and two interceptions, and just four less passes. So it's just a huge difference in the offensive strength, I think. And I heard a lot before this game, like Miami's going to come out and they're gonna show people. Yeah, they showed us. They showed us for sure. They struggled. They put up 13 points barely, and yeah, it was sad. There's also that whole thing with them pulling out the turnover chain and then having to take it back off because it got overturned and they were like down 27. Right? It was a very very sad opening for Miami.
Yeah, I mean, if you're down, like, heck, if you're down two or more touchdowns, you shouldn't be pulling out the turnover chain regardless of whether you get a turnover or not. So that was dumb in the first place. And then the fact that they got overturned, like, that was just depressing. I mean, that pretty much summed up the game from Miami. But going back to Bryce Young, I mean, he came out, he looked amazing. Obviously, the past few quarterbacks for Alabama, we expect them to be pretty good in the NFL. Mac Jones, Jalen Hurts, you can attribute to Alabama, and as well as Tua. We expect them to be good in the NFL. Bryce Young is looking good right now. So I think they'll be just fine with Bryce Young going forward. And looking at Alabama's schedule this year, ain't looking too tough for them. You've got Mercer coming up this week. I don't think that'll be much of a challenge at all. Florida should be a good game, but Alabama will win that. And then the rest of your schedule isn't really looking too hard. Southern Miss, Ole Miss, A&M should be a good game, but again, that's another one that they should probably easily win. Mississippi State, Tennessee, LSU, New Mexico State, Arkansas, not really seeing much there. And then, of course, the Iron Bowl at the end of the season, depending on how Auburn does throughout the season, it might be a game. But Alabama pretty much just reloaded. They didn't have to rebuild. They reloaded. They moved on. And it looks like they're probably just going to run through this schedule and be in the SEC title game against presumably Georgia. But, we'll have to see what Georgia does throughout the rest of this season. But Alabama, they came, they saw, they conquered. Simple as that.
Yeah, I like your use of the term reloaded. I mean, you could say they just, they dropped Mac Jones out the clip and put Bryce Young into it. Same thing with some of the receivers and stuff. The offense looks, I mean, even better than last year as far as this first game. And yeah, there's no way that they don't stay the number one ranked team when you look at their schedule. And, you see a team that good and you kind of want to see. And I think even with a super strong schedule, they would remain number one. But this is a cakewalk. Like Florida might put up a fight, Auburn might put up a fight, Texas A&M maybe, LSU. We'll get to them in a little bit, but so I don't know. But yeah, Alabama with a team like this in a schedule like that, we will probably be seeing them in the playoffs. I'm sure they'll end up facing Georgia if Georgia also plays the way they've been playing, or that they played. They've only had one game. So, but we'll have to see how that goes. I think Alabama is much more set in stone to make it further than Georgia is.
Yeah, I mean, 2 years ago, Alabama missed the playoffs, and that was the one time they missed it since it started. And, we're like, okay, what's going to happen now? Tua's gone. You come in with Matt Jones, and they just run through the schedule like pretty easily. You obviously have Matt Jones. He is drafted in the first round. Devontae Smith wins the Heisman, first receiver to do it in 30 years. And they're like, all right, now how do you top this going forward? Kill Miami. So I don't really know what to say, man. I mean, Alabama just, I mean, it is what it is with them. Nick Saban for the past decade and some change. This is who they've been. Just come in, absolutely dominate. Again, Miami's not really like a top tier team. Of course, they're ranked 14th at the time, but they weren't going to beat Alabama, regardless. But I just did not expect things to turn out this way at all.
Yeah, I mean, they had Nick Saban smiling at the end of the game and everything. And they put a little old football helmet on him. He was looking like he actually felt joy. So,
Yeah, Nick
you know.
Saban chilling at the end of the game, like smiling, looking happy. I mean, that's when you know he was like, man, this is easy work, easy work.
Yeah, so this is probably what we're gonna get all season.
Yeah, I mean, I ain't mad at it. At some point we got Alabama fatigue for sure. But I think them missing the playoffs and having us, see LSU go far, along with Clemson, Ohio State in the mix, and then they come back and win next year. I think the Alabama fatigue, for me at least, is worn off a little bit. I'm not annoyed that Alabama is out here killing people and making things easy. But like you said, I don't really see a scenario where they'll drop below number one unless they have a game where they almost lose to like a Florida or maybe LSU or Auburn at the end of the season, something like that. But yeah, I just don't really see them dropping. So more likely than not, like we said, they'll probably be in the SEC title game, presumably against Georgia.
Yeah, and I like what you said about the Alabama fatigue. Like as a Clemson fan, I definitely don't want Alabama to go all the way. But with them missing out and then coming back and winning, it doesn't feel as bad. It's not as annoying, right? Because they haven't they had a few off years, so it's not like a constant thing. And yeah, it's not as terrible. And I thought this game was enjoyable from a certain stance.